Check out this mess. You know, people are always getting on my case about how my place is always such a mess. Yeah, look at that. But, yeah, that's about 1 year's worth of junk that's supposed to be destroyed. With any luck, it's going to happen soon. But in the meantime, I have pulled out of this pile of crap this here, which is nothing special. I believe that this motherboard actually works. The only problem is that the onboard Ethernet does not. But this is all going to come out of here because I've got some new pieces here. As a little bit of a test. Well, that probably doesn't work anymore, but a little bit of a test to see if we can maybe extend the life of some of these. This thing here is a 10-year-old PC, Asus 287M-E, standard platform, i7 4770. But the problem I'm having with these is that these are 10 years old now. And because they're 10 years old, they have the typical 10-year-old road hard, put away wet computer problems. You know, Ethernet ports go bad, the USB goes bad, the RAM slots stop working. I mean, you can put in... I've had an interesting problem with some of these where you can put one stick of memory in any of these slots and it'll work fine, but the instant you put a second memory slot or put a second module in, it stops posting. And it's not like it stops posting in the good way. It will turn on and then it will immediately turn itself back off, and it'll do that in a loop, which is not how it's supposed to react, but whatever. Bad CPU is another problem, or, you know, power supply fails, and that usually blows up the motherboard along with it. So, like I said, I'm hoping that this new hardware is going to work out. Now, the problem is that we have some very specific needs with these. Number one, the legacy boot is required for this environment. Number two, I have to be able to disable the USB booting as an option. Well, that's less of a problem with these. I don't really care. We're already protecting it with a password, so. But my thing is I don't want the drives to have failed and then some random person to be able to come in and plug in a USB stick and have it boot to, you know, whatever random thing it boots to. And the last one's cost. This has to be done as cheaply as possible because the plan is to replace all the PCs with terminals at some point. Now, this is not going to be done right away. It's going to be done in stages, which is another reason why I don't feel too bad about redoing these. You know, spending, I think this was a little bit more than $400, all this combined. There it is, with the board removed. I even got out the little toolbox vacuum there and cleaned it out. It's almost brand new again. But it's still got that patina of having seen 10 years worth of time. Look at the rust on that power supply. It's awfully tempting to replace that power supply because this is one of the early ones as well. But I think I'll do that after I see all this stuff work. I'm not going to put too much effort into it beyond what I already have. Okay, here is the new board. Looks pretty nice. There's no PCI on this, but we're not really using PCI in there anymore anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. As far as video outputs, this has VGA, and it's also got DisplayPort, which means that I will have to standardize because the room that these are going to go into, again, I'm going to make the assumption this is going to work, the rooms these are going to go into, or the room that this is going to go into, is a combination of DVI and VGA. So the DVI is going to have to go, certainly, and I want to get rid of the stupid VGA because VGA is crap, and the monitors that are in that room don't exactly work with the VGA anyway, so yeah, look at that, nice and shiny. There's no PCI, like I mentioned, but I don't think we're going to miss that. There's only 4 SATA ports, but Again, I don't think we're going to miss that because we don't really, we only use 2 of them anyway. There's not enough space in that case for more than 2 of them. Even if you use a CD drive. So, anyway. Let me get the chip unpackaged. They give you 2 SATA cables, which is good. There's the M.2. I might install that just for the sake of putting it in there. An I.O. plate, and of course the book with the CD. I'm gonna have to save that because we'll have to save at least one. So here's UCPU 5600G with the integrated video. Again, basically a requirement. I think the chip was $160. Intel chip was roughly the same price, but then you had to factor in a video card on top of that. And yeah, I don't think so. Okay, there it is now with the heatsink installed. You can see it does in fact use its own screws, although it uses the back plate on the board. So all you have to remove are these pieces, which is pretty easy. RAM install will take place next. They're going to go into the 2 gray slots just because those ones are the ones that are marked with a star. It's for channel 2 as opposed to channel 1, but they're marked off, and that seems to be the way that most manufacturers do it now. So anyway, it's 16 gigs. That was really the only requirement. The 3600 memory, I was going to go for 3200, but I think it was like an extra $5 to go for the 36. So there wasn't much of a point not to go with the 36. So plus, with the integrated video, the 36 would be much better anyway. So, okay, there it is. All ready to go. The RAM installed. In the appropriate slots. CPU is installed in the appropriate place. This has 2 fan headers, but they're not where I thought they'd be. So I'm hoping that the fan wires will actually go where they need to go. And of course, this does have a standard... This does have a standard setup. I noticed there's no chassis intrusion switch on this, which is kind of interesting. So this isn't really a business grade board, but it is the CSM, or at least it's supposed to be the CSM, I don't know. But yeah, I don't see any header for a chassis intrusion switch. Not that it matters, because what we actually, hold on a minute. There is something there. I wonder if maybe this one just doesn't have it. But anyway, we just jumpered ours out because the switches died after so many years. Where the cases started to get a little loose, so the chassis intrusion switch would go off and the system wouldn't boot. So really it doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose anyway. We have the PCs locked down pretty deeply anyway. So here we go. It's in place. Wow, what a pain. This case is such an oyster can, and it's compounded by the fact that this board actually stretches out to all 8 screw holes. So there's extra 2 there. The old board does not, if you'll notice. So that kind of sucked. I think in future, if I keep doing this, pull this stupid plastic fan piece of crap out the back. I hate these things. I'm honestly thinking about just yanking this completely out anyway, and putting regular screws in that. And then this also has to come out, this drive cage, because it's just in the way. Here we go. Cabled up. Everything cabled up. Right, we are basically ready for the first power up. Let's power it up and hope nothing goes wrong. Okay. Oh, heard the fan slow down. There's our beep that we want. Ah, there we go. Perfect. New CPU installed. Our setup to configure. Don't mind if I do. Of course, there's the new setup utility. Looks good. So far. Now let me do the configuration to get this on par with what this was. There it is. That's the option I want. Now, the reason why we went with the AMD system, because Intel, with the 500 series chipsets, got rid of the integrated video BIOS, or the legacy video BIOS on their integrated video. So you need to either use a 400 series or older chipset, or you need a dedicated video card. And the dedicated video card raises the cost exponentially, and you can't get the 400 series boards anymore, at least not en masse like you can with these. So, time will tell whether I want to leave this the way that it's at. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save those changes, do a couple more changes because I do have to enable the legacy OP-ROM for the network, and then I got to see if I can lock down the USB. But if I can't, it's not that big of a deal. Now I got to get some drives in here. I'm going to go ahead and enable the DOCP as well. 1.4 volts on that CPU though. It looks a little high. Also 41 degrees. Just sitting here idling at the BIOS also looks rather high. So, hopefully that's not going to be an issue. Okay, so it's now hooked up with some new drives. Get rid of this. Look at that. Ick. That's what happens to most of these. That's what most of them look like. In fact, this one's even better than most of them because there's not rust all over this bottom panel. See what it does now with drives installed. So I do need to reconfigure the boot order a little bit. Okay. That is configured. I also turned that off because you're not going to use that. So let's see here. This should, without any intervention, go to a grub boot menu now. See what it does. Yep, there's a grub boot menu. Let's make sure that Ubuntu boots. I have no network hooked up to this, so I can't thoroughly test it, but I'll do that once I get it back to my desk. So far, though, it's promising. Yeah, no video driver installed, but we're basically good to go, though. You can see there, it's got all that stuff. See if I can find the device manager, see how many unknown devices there are. Well, not as many as I thought there would be, but anyway, last touch that I did to this is I peeled off the old Intel sticker and put the new AMD ones on. Kind of a little stupid, but it'll help me distinguish which ones are the new ones versus the old ones, if those stickers don't get peeled off by enterprising students. But yeah. My only last concern is whether or not our imaging program has a Realtek driver built in, because this uses Realtek LAN as opposed to Intel, which, again, that was one of the reasons why I wanted a CSM board, was for something that actually had Intel Ethernet, but oh well. If there's a Realtek driver on it, then I'm not too concerned. But I guess we'll find out. But I guess that's for me to find out, and you guys to ponder on forever, because I'm going to kill the video at that. I think we're pretty much done here anyway. Oh yeah, before I go, one little bit of a postscript here. We as a society are trying to get rid of single-use plastics. And in some aspects, we've actually done it. But take a look at all this plastic. Just from this one computer build. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, thanks for watching.